Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update, and we have breaking news. A week after The Voice was defeated, the latest Roy Morgan poll shows ALP support has dropped significantly, down 4.5% to 49.5%, behind the coalition on 50.5% on a two-party preferred basis. This is the first time since the Albanese government won last year's federal election that the coalition has been in front. If a federal election were held now, the coalition would win. This week, government confidence was down by 4.5 points to 78, well below the neutral level of 100. Most Australians, or at least 53.5% of them, say the country is going in the wrong direction. Only 31.5% say the country is heading in the right direction. Looking now at our primary voting intention shows the coalition on 36%, up 2% from a week ago, and clearly ahead of the ALP on only 32%, down 3% in a week. The Greens are unchanged on 14%, support for independence is up 1.5% to 8.5%, and support for One Nation is down 0.5% to 4.5%. A further 5% of electors support other parties. Looking now at the two-party preferred results state by state shows some really interesting results, with the ALP ahead in Victoria and Western Australia, but now behind in the three other mainland states. In Victoria, the ALP is on 54.5%, ahead of the coalition on 45.5%. In Western Australia, the ALP is on 53%, ahead of the coalition on 47%. In contrast, the coalition is well ahead in Queensland on 60.5%, compared to the ALP on only 39.5%. Now remember, Queensland's the coalition's stronghold, and the LNP holds 21 seats in Queensland, compared to only 5 for the ALP. The coalition's also in front in South Australia on 53.5%, leading the ALP on 46.5%. The results tightest in New South Wales, with the coalition on 51.5%, just ahead of the ALP on 48.5%. And for the first time in a long time, women favour the LNP. In fact, there's little to split the genders this week, with both men and women narrowly favouring the coalition, in line with the overall result. Coalition 50.5 compared to the ALP 49.5. A look at the age splits shows clear differences by age. Younger people, that's aged 18 to 34, heavily favour the ALP, with 59.5% compared to the coalition on 40.5%. Australians aged 35 to 49 narrowly favour the ALP on 53.5%. Those aged 50 to 64 are almost evenly split, but give the coalition the edge on 50.5%. And older Australians, aged 65 and over, are heavily in favour of the coalition, with the party on 63.5%, compared to the ALP on only 36.5%. So the age of an elector is again one of the key indicators as to how they're likely to vote. Now, despite the fall that we saw in support for the government, consumer confidence increased by 1.8 points to 78.2 this week, and that was mostly driven by increased optimism about the economy. But the index is once again stuck below 80. But the upward move provides hope that the index can sustainably advance above that mark in the next few weeks. But what happens to consumer confidence will likely depend on what the Reserve Bank does in early November, which of course is closely related to the next indicator, inflation. In a concerning move, inflation expectations were up 0.4 percentage points to 5.7% this week, and they're now at their highest level since early July, more than 3 months ago. So Australians are now expecting annual inflation to be 5.7% over the next 2 years. Since hitting a low of 4.9% in mid-September, inflation expectations have increased by a large, almost 1%, 0.8 percentage points over the last month. Clearly, a large driver of the increase in inflation expectations is the record high petrol prices we're experiencing. Now, even though average retail petrol prices were down slightly over the last week, petrol prices have now spent a record 11 straight weeks above $1.90 per litre. That's the longest stretch ever at that high level. All these factors will play a part in the Reserve Bank's decision making on interest rates on Melbourne Cup Day in just 2 weeks. And the latest ABS CPI figures for the September quarter, due out tomorrow, are also set to play a major part in the decision making of the Reserve Bank. And now a quick look at a special Roy Morgan survey on Agribusiness brand trust. Based on over 1,000 interviews, actually 1,002 in-depth interviews with Australian farmers, the research showed Bendigo Bank is the most trusted agribusiness bank in Australia, ahead of the NAB and CBA. Just some of the reasons farmers gave for rating Bendigo Bank Australia's most trusted agribusiness bank were, in their own words, "We went to them after having problems with a major bank and they fixed our problem. They're very generous towards community organisations in the district. It's locally owned and returns profits back into the community, and it has local branches." Another one about branches, they have local branches. They're very helpful and have wonderful staff. There are further details on the Agribusiness survey if you're interested, and there's a report. So if you'd like, click below this video to access that. And that's a wrap for this week. Thanks for listening today, and I look forward to bringing you more of this critical information next week.